Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today should be quite an interesting day. Before we get into it, I just want you to take a look at this, pause your screen and read this. I don't really have much to say on this, but I do think you should read it. So now that that's out of the way, I think we're going to spend today talking a little bit about Bitcoin dominance and some pretty cool Bitcoin stuff. I want to talk about potentially gold and exiting Bitcoin potentially into gold. So we're going to go through that. And of course, it's CPI day today. So I'll talk a little bit about that. For now, let's jump straight into this, okay? There's lots of questions on Bitcoin dominance lately, and people are wondering if it's time for alt season. I'm seeing this an awful lot. Every single time Bitcoin dominance moves up or down a tiny couple of ticks, I see all sorts of people going, get ready for alt season, get ready for alt season, right? And is it time to rotate from Bitcoin to alts? I think this speaks to the naivety of the majority of market participants and also the greed, right? Just enjoy your Bitcoin gains for a while. There's plenty of times left for alts. Anyway, the run on Bitcoin has barely even begun. Understand this, okay? We're a mere 1.2x off of the lows, and we're probably going closer to 10 or 15x this run. Bitcoin dominance remains in a clear uptrend, and that's not going to change unless we drop well below 48%. We expect to see, this is Cred and me, 57 to 60% dominance at least. I actually expect to see higher than 60% dominance, and if you've been here before, you know this, right? You know this. Whenever I say this, people are very quick to come out and go, nah, Camel, you're wrong. But no one ever gives me a good reason, okay? And if I pull up this chart, do you remember this? If you've been here before, you will have seen this. Well, how does it look today? Today, it looks pretty much like it's tracking, to me. And the reason I say this, right, the reason I was so confident in this call is, and I said this at the time, what is this? This is a massive bottom formation, and you can see the range break in blue. What did we do? Breakout, retest, continue to break out, and now we're sitting right around here. All the time, let me clean this up a bit for you, all the time we're holding above this, right? All the time we're holding above this, then we've got a confirmed bottom. And like I said at the time as well, if you think about this not as Bitcoin dominance, right? If we take away the greed of altcoins, the greed and the noise and the nonsense of altcoins, and this was just a stock, yeah? Let's say this was a stock. Then once it broke its range, this massive base, and broke out to the upside and then retested and continued higher, okay? Would you then say, well, I know what comes next, this? Of course you wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense, okay? Once you get a massive range break in a bottom, you expect continuation for some time. And that's why this has been pointing to 60 to 70% Bitcoin dominance before we get the alt season. Also, if you're new here, I understand that you just want to quickly make some gains and you haven't really got the experience to get through the market properly yet. But understand this, okay? Even if you're an altcoin bull and you are heavily in altcoins, you want to see Bitcoin dominance increase significantly first so that we create a massive liquidity pool to then shift into altcoins. The higher Bitcoin dominance goes, the bigger the alt season. If we were to just do what everyone thinks we're going to do, which is grab this arrow and break down from here. If this is what we're going to do now, okay, then there's nowhere near as much capital going to flow into the altcoins as if we do it from where I've been suggesting we might. So yeah, I get it. You're greedy. I get it. You make massive altcoin gains. I get it. But trust me, if that's true, then you want to see this Bitcoin dominance run first, okay? And again, like I said, if that was a stock, would you be expecting it to break down straight away? No, we'd be looking for at least 57 to 60, if not 70%, before the tables turn and the alts start playing catch up. Once Bitcoin consolidates and corrects in its uptrend to new highs, like it's doing at the moment, there are small windows where alts begin to outperform, but this is temporary, and when Bitcoin begins its next leg up, alts are going to bleed against Bitcoin again. Bitcoin, remember, is the apex predator asset, and it will continue to be like that until it's decided it's time to let and to allow the altcoins to run. So yes, there's always going to be a small percentage, maybe 1% of the altcoins that are the exception and that are just going to pump and do insane numbers. Solana comes to mind, Link comes to mind. I don't own any of this stuff, but just look at your altcoin portfolio and that will tell you if you know what you're doing, right? Most of these altcoins, 99% of them have done absolutely sweet FA, and they're going to continue to do that for some time. Many of them, I would argue, are probably not even going back to all-time highs again. But as ever, I'm open to being proven wrong one day at a time, as always. So when the time is right, the tables will turn and most alts will begin to outperform Bitcoin. But that time is not this time, it's not right now. So take advantage of Bitcoin while it's igniting its parabolic run to new all-time highs, and then rotate away until your heart's desire afterwards. But for now, as per my chart, which suggests we are going up, so does Creds, okay? Take a look at this. Probably going at least to 60 to 64%, and I would argue we could easily see 70%, as I have been arguing right here. So I guess my message is simple. Don't get distracted, okay? Focus on what's at hand. What's at hand right now is Bitcoin has a massive run, and then it's going to allow rotation into altcoins. But don't be too greedy to get your 100x pumps immediately, okay? play the Bitcoin cycle and then rotate into alts. That's how the pros do it. I want to ask you this, okay? Does this look realistic to you? Is this likely or unlikely? Let me first click this chart and take a good look at it, right? So this would be a run to 46k, some kind of pullback, and then a run to all-time highs, some kind of pullback before we go parabolic. And this would be a standard 4-year type shape, right? This would be well into 2025 that we see the top come in. So is this likely or unlikely? Well, you can see the majority of market participants think, in fact, nearly 70% of them think this is very likely. And I really like this setup. Why? Because I think what's much more likely is we catch that 70% off guard, okay? And what we see is, in fact, this straight up and then that big secular bear market decline. Now, I'm open to anything as always, but the more people that are just expecting the thing to repeat exactly as it always did, and the more that we continue to just go up only, the facts are the facts, and the more likely this shape change becomes. One thing I am sure of is there's no return to the lows this cycle for Bitcoin. We are not going to do what a bunch of people think we are, which is what we did back here, where we went up and then retested the lows before going into a parabola. I'm confident we're not going to do that. And I've shown a bunch of these types of charts, a bunch of these types of metrics that indicate that the next thing for Bitcoin is a massive parabola. And here is just yet another example of that, okay? Look down the bottom. We've got 2 and 3 into a parabola, and then we go into this bearish 1 with a bear market, right? And then we do the exact same thing again. We've got 2 and 3 as we enter the parabola before going into the bear market where we form 1 again, right? And then what happens? We do the exact same thing again into 3 whilst we put in a parabola before the bear market where 1 forms. And if we look at what's going on today, we are into entering 3, okay? We are entering 3, tells us that this is what comes next before we roll over and enter that bear market once more. And here is yet another extremely bullish chart from Henrik, okay? Bitcoin may soar to 170 to 180,000, minimum 115k. Whilst, yes, a recession will hit the economy and risk assets, including Bitcoin, are going to be crushed, this is not yet. For now, risk assets, including Bitcoin, are going to soar. You can stay bearish all you like, but you're on the wrong side of the market. And so you can see here with this big channel, we've only done a mere 1.3x. 10 or 11x off the lows is well within the cards, and there is also scope for overperformance before we roll over. Something else I'm keeping my eye on at the moment is we could well be on, if this plays, to see 1 Bitcoin equal roughly 100 ounces of gold by as early as June of next year. Okay, if this thing continues to play out like I think it's going to, then we are going to see Bitcoin equal 100 ounces of gold. And I think this would be a baller exit. And I think this for a number of reasons. First of all, if we do get a touch here, it's reasonable to expect that we see gold then go on to outperform Bitcoin. But also, the thing I like about Bitcoin and gold is they're both bearer assets, right? They carry no counterparty risk. If you hold your Bitcoin on a cold wallet and if you hold the physical gold instead of allow like an ETF to hold it for you or keep it in a bank vault somewhere, then if you actually bear these assets yourself, they carry no counterparty risk, right? So I like the fact that I will have a chance to exit the best bearer asset on the planet for the second best bearer asset. But the point is, I will still be bearing my own assets and carrying no counterparty risk. If I'm going to exit Bitcoin, which carries no counterparty risk, into like fiat or the banking system, then I'm taking a huge risk with my gains, right? I don't want to do that. The thing I like about Bitcoin is I get to say F you to the system and I get to bear it myself. So this is why I like this trade a lot, particularly if technically speaking it plays out. This is around 100 ounces of gold per 1 Bitcoin, okay? So what stack we might be able to achieve here. And if you're not convinced, take a look at this, okay? So if I draw your eyes to this chart, okay, the yellow dots, these are Bitcoin priced in gold. The black line is the Bitcoin priced in gold stock to flow model, which by the way has a 99% correlation. Now I want to draw your eyes to this line here, which is 2022, and this line here, which is this year. Now, as I just showed you, we're currently sat at around 18 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. So that tells us that the yellow dot for this year is going to be somewhere in this neighborhood where I'm just drawing now. And it also tells us that as of 2024, we should be clear of 100 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. So we have confluence here that we could well see that magical 100 ounces of gold hit, as well as from a TA perspective. And this Bitcoin gold stock to flow model, like I said, has a 99% correlation. So it tells me that this is quite likely going to play out. This is quite likely going to play out. And remember, as I was saying earlier, where a bunch of people don't think this change of shape is possible, most people are looking at the standard shape repeat. So it will also, if we were to see something like this, it would set us up to harm the most amount of market participants, which is of course what markets love to do. So as if you're not already bullish enough, I found this, and this is the most bullish gold chart I have ever seen in my entire life. Now, I don't know if this is going to play, Okay, but here's what's interesting. This is a measured move from here extrapolated to here. If we do that, this chart suggests the gold target priced in dollars would be around $48,000 per ounce, which incidentally is also the number that we would need approximately if we were going to back USM2 100% by gold. So I say this a lot, show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. If you just showed me this chart, I would have said, nah, impossible. But is it possible that we're going to move to some new gold standard and they are indeed going to back M2 by gold? If they do, the only way they can do that, because there isn't enough gold on the planet, is to reprice gold massively higher. And again, show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. The chart says 48k with a measured move. Now, like I said, if you'd have just shown me this chart, if you'd have told me gold's going to 48k, I would have said, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. And this chart also, by the way, points to seeing that possibly as early as 2035. You know me, to be clear, one day at a time, okay? No predictions, one day at a time, as always, open to anything as always. For now, I think the thing I want to focus on is, can we get this thing to play out? Can I exit the Bitcoin into gold? And do we get that cycle change? For now, like I keep saying, the more up only we go, the more likely this cycle change becomes. And if you don't champion in this idea, if you think, no, Camel, you're crazy, we're just going to do a standard 4-year cycle repeat like we always do, then I hate to break it to you, mate, but you really need to see this thing go sideways and base very, very soon. Because if we continue this angle of attack that we currently have established here, if we continue this trend line up, okay, we're going to hit the top of this by as early as, I don't know, April, March of next year. And when we hit this technical target, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think what comes next from here is this? Okay, is that really what you think is going to happen? Or do you think we get a rejection at resistance and a rollover? Same deal for the gold chart, right? Do you think that if we continue this, if we don't start basing soon, right, we are going to just continue up and hit the top of this? And when we hit the top of this, do you think we're just going to go straight up like this? No, of course not. Of course we're not, right? Of course we're not. Come on, we have to be serious about this. So, like I said, if you don't believe that this cycle is about to change shape and enter its first true secular bear market decline, which is seemingly the most likely outcome at the moment based on both super cycle theory, and Elliott wave theory also has confluence with this, by the way. All of these things are actually pointing to a cycle change shape. Now, if you don't believe that that's coming, like I said, you really, really, really need to see this thing start to base whilst we move towards the halving first. Otherwise, we are going to stay in up-only mode. We are probably going to hit resistance at the top, and we are probably going to enter a 3-year secular bear market decline. So again, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, this is no. I've had people lately accuse me of just trying to be different for the sake of being different. That's not what I'm doing. Okay, I don't know what the F is going to happen. I have no clue what is going to happen. Okay, all I'm trying to say is if we keep this up, then it's up only mode, right? And it does set us up for that left translated cycle. Again, if you think we're going to repeat, then this current shape looks nothing like any of these prior cycles, okay? You need to see some basing soon. And so lastly, before I love you and leave you, today is of course US CPI day, right? Today, we are no longer here. We are well past this Goldilocks zone. We're probably somewhere in this neighborhood, and we get to find out if we are indeed still swinging from a highly inflationary environment to strong deflation. The CME probabilities currently sit at 85.7%, which is strong enough to say we're likely going to see a pause, but the CPI print will likely reprice this today. Okay, so a hot CPI print, and we may well see this decrease whilst the chances of a rate hike increase. But realistically, they can't really hike rates anymore, can they? Because the banking system will collapse, everything's going to break. So we probably are still going to see the pause continue to play out. I also think because of that deflationary pendulum continuing to swing towards deflation, we are probably going to see CPI come down a little bit, and thus this is going to reprice to the upside, confirming the pause. Why is that so bullish? Well, you tell me. Take a look at this, okay? Every time we see the pause, what happens? The market continues to rally until the cuts, and then the onset of a cutting cycle causes the decline in the stock market. It's the same deal here, the same deal here. Will this time be different? I highly doubt it. The pause will set us up for continued upside, a run to new all-time highs, and then the cuts, when they arrive, will set us up for the downside and the crash and the recession. As it stands, credit spreads, as you can see here, not looking anything like a financially stressed situation, is it? We also have this, and I've shown this before, strong rejection at resistance at the hard right edge. So again, it does not speak to some kind of credit event or any financial stress moment for the stock market just yet. The dollar also looking heavy, isn't it? The dollar continues to look heavy. And what about the chart of truth? Okay, also seems to know, right, doesn't it? It seems to know that we are probably going to do this after we confirm that lower CPI print, or at least in line with expectation CPI print, and the rate pause will continue to be priced in. Notice how Bitcoin is getting that pullback right into that half cycle low, which is due tomorrow for a perfect 30-day cycle low. So I wonder if we get something like this today and then the CPI print comes out and we reverse and continue. That seems to be the most likely outcome to me. Candidate for a swing here, but maybe we need to make a second drive down for gold. We will see how that goes. Silver still looking heavy to me, isn't it? You can see oil still coming off. Again, this speaks to that deflationary swing on the pendulum, doesn't it? This is not looking, it needs to break out this downward sloping red resistance line and force me to cover my short if it's going to start to look like we are indeed in a sticky inflationary environment. For now though, any kind of counter-trend bounce and rejection of resistance speaks to that deflationary moment in the not too distant future, perhaps as early as Q1 of next year. All these crypto-related equities to bounce once Bitcoin finds its half-cycle low and continues its rally. The Russell 2K still not broken out of this downward sloping pink resistance line, hasn't it? So we'll continue to sit patiently here. The VIX not spiking, is it? Not speaking to a fear moment, not speaking to a stock market plunge imminent at all. And as of yesterday, stocks holding their breakouts. Here's the S&P, here's the NASDAQ, and here is the Dow Jones. So far, so good. Everything to me looks happy days. We'll see how that CPI print goes. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and I will post it in there as soon as it comes out. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow to discuss. In the meantime, I hope you're doing well in life. Take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.